Okay, this is continuation of phrasal verbs. First one, get on and get off. You can get on and get off a bus or a train. So if you're waiting on the platform and the train or the electric train pulls up and the door opens, you get on. And some people are getting off, so they're leaving. So you can get on a train, you can get off a train. Same with a bus. Same with a plane. The next one, get in and get out. I usually use this with a car. So if my friend pulls up in his car and he opens the door, he'll say, get in. Or when he stops and parks and we need to get out and go somewhere, we get out of the car. Next phrasal verb will be run into. So sometimes by chance you could meet your friends in the city and we would say we actually run right into them. And so if I met my friend by chance yesterday, for example, on the metro, I could say, yesterday I ran into Kenny on the metro. Next is get over. If you have a relationship with somebody and the relationship went sour and you feel bad about it, it takes sometimes several months to get over it. When you've gotten over it, that means you have forgotten about it, you feel better, and you no longer feel pain. So you could say, I've gotten over my relationship. Turn off and turn on is usually with the light or with the computer. You could say, turn the light on. You could also say, turn the water on, turn the water off, turn the light off. And you could also turn the computer on and off. Next is write down. You have probably heard this 1,000 times from your teacher. Your teacher will write something up on the blackboard, and the teacher will ask you to copy. And so basically you have to open up your copybook and write down everything that the teacher says. Next is call on. So call on could be when the teacher wants to know the answer to a question, the teacher will call on one of the students. So the teacher will ask a question such as, what is the capital of Argentina? And the teacher will point to Jerry and say, Jerry, I'm calling on you. So the teacher just called on you. What is the capital? Come from. We usually use this when people tell another person where they come from, where they were born, where they were brought up. I was born in Miami, so I tell people I come from Miami in the state of Florida from the United States. So people say, where do you come from? Or if you leave the house and you go to the store and you come back, people can ask, where are you coming from? You could say, I just came from the store. It's another different way to use it. Look into. If you look into these matters, or if you look into some subject, then you're going to study it. And so right now I'm looking into archaeology and ancient history. And so I'm studying specific periods of history that have to do with archaeology and ancient history. I'm looking into it. Ask out. So we can talk about this, about going out on a date. So I could say, Saturday I asked out Nastya and she has agreed to go out with me. And so to ask out is to ask another person to go out on a date with you. They have to be of the opposite sex. Next is call back. If you call your friend and your friend is busy, maybe driving or doing something, or they can't talk to you, they'll say, call me back in 5 minutes, and they'll hang up, and then you have to call them back in 5 minutes. Call off is another phrasal verb that means to cancel. And so today we're going to go to a football match, but if it starts raining and there's lightning, the referee will call the game off, meaning he will cancel the game. To call up, if you want to literally phone your friend or you call your friend, then we say we call him or her up. So if I want to call Vitalik and ask him if he wants to go swimming, then I would dial his number, I would call him up, and then I would ask him. So to give back. Normally I loan a lot of books out to people, and I also music as well. And when I give something to somebody, I ask them to return it. So I say, please give it back. Bring it back or return it. So to give back is to return something. To put something away, if you want to think about having your room orderly and putting everything in order, the books in order, the clothes in order, and if you want things to be put in their proper place, you would ask somebody to put them away, or you yourself would put them away. That means to put them in their proper place. Now, when we talk about clothes, I normally think of hanging them up. So normally in my wardrobe or in my closet, I have hangers, and I hang up not only my shirts, my sweaters, and my dress shirts, but sometimes I hang up my jeans. To put back is to replace in the proper place, normally the same place from which you have taken something. So if I have a small library in my house and I take out a certain book, and then after I've finished reading the book, I'm going to put it back. So I'm going to replace it in the same place from which I took it. So that would be to put it back. So to shut off would be like to turn off the computer. After you've been using the computer for a long time, it gets very hot. And then you have a choice. You could put it on sleeping mode or you could completely shut it off. So normally sometimes it's better to completely shut it off, means to turn it off. So when I take my wife shopping, she always likes to try on the clothes. Why does she try them on? Because she has to make sure that they fit, and she wants to make sure she likes the way that they look aesthetically. And so before you buy shoes or before you buy jeans, it's always wise to try them on to make sure that it's the proper style and size. So normally when we're talking about the radio and you want more volume or you want it to be louder, you'd say turn it up. And if you want it to be softer because you're trying to concentrate, you would say turn it down, please. So we're talking about the volume of sound. So to have on would be to wear something. So today I have on my United States national team football jersey because I'm going to a football match today. So I have it on. I put it on. That means I'm wearing it. Okay, so sometimes my friend Igor, he has these really tricky, complicated texts that sometimes I have to look over. And so I look over them, and that means I read over them, and I check, and I edit, and I try to find problems, and sometimes I change a sentence in one way or another. And so, or my students, they write these essays, and they give them to me, and I have to edit them. So what do? I look them over. I read them, and I look for either errors or how to improve it. So normally, if I see something that another person perhaps doesn't see, I point it out to them. So yesterday, my buddy was walking down the street, but his shoelaces were untied. So I pointed it out to him. I said, hey, Chuvak, you need to tie your shoes because you're going to trip. So I pointed out to him that his shoelaces were untied. And then after you have written a certain essay and you have edited it and you have checked for grammar and spelling, you can print it out. And you normally do that by going to File, Print, and you have to have a printer to print your work out. Tear down. So normally we use this word with demolition when construction workers or demolition workers are tearing down a building. They're breaking it down, they're demolishing it. So that's tear down. Tear out of. I usually think of this if you have a folder full of papers and they're connected by some kind of binding and you need one, so you have to tear it out. Tear up would be if you take a piece of paper and you shred it or rip it and tear it into many different pieces, little pieces. So you're tearing the paper up. Turn over is if you have a sheet of paper and you place it down on a table and you want to see what is on the other side. So I say turn the paper over. To blow out is if the electricity goes out, like it often does in Crimea, you usually light candles. But when the electricity comes back on, you blow the candles out. Bring back. If I loan you something and you use it for a while, I ask you eventually to bring it back. That means to return it to its rightful owner. So I say, bring my stereo back. To bring up is to raise, to have the responsibility of raising or bringing up, for example, your son or your daughter. And so your upbringing, or how you raise them and discipline them, is bringing them up. To cheer up, I normally say this to somebody who is unhappy or who has just suffered a defeat. If I see somebody who's kind of sad, I try to tell them some jokes to make them laugh in order to cheer them up. Next is clean up. If the kitchen is dirty and it needs to be cleaned, then you would use this phrasal verb. You would say, please help me clean up the kitchen. You could say clean the kitchen or clean up the kitchen. Give away. If you have too many things and your house is cluttered, you need to give some of these things to other people so that your house isn't so cluttered. So you'd give things away. Help out. Normally, if one person is doing all the cleaning in the house, it isn't fair, and they need help from other people. So they can ask you, can you please help me, or can you help out cleaning the kitchen? Next is lay off. A lot of times when the economy isn't very good, people are getting fired from their jobs, and then they become unemployed. And so if your boss fires you for a particular amount of time, it could be forever, he's laying you off, meaning your services are no longer needed. Leave on. Normally when I enter the house, there's a certain table where I always leave my keys. I take my keys and I put them down on the table. So I always leave my keys on the table, to leave on. And then take out. Normally once a month I take my wife out to a very nice restaurant in Moscow. So I always take her out, which means out to the center to a very nice restaurant. And then take back. If sometimes we buy things and it turns out that they don't fit or they don't work properly. So what do? We return them to the shop. We take them back. And then talk over. Yesterday was the opening of the World Cup and Brazil beat Croatia 3-1. And today my buddy Igor came over the house and we were talking over the game and how it went. And we both agreed that the referee was terrible. So we talked over the game. We talked the game over together.